Hello and welcome back to another episode of Foop. And today we're all about the D's. The D D D D D D D D D D D D D D D D. It's that, isn't it, basically? What D's are you talking about? So we're going to be touching today upon disappointment, devastation, doubt, and don't give up. Just small D's, really. Not the capital. Well, they are actually, aren't they? They really are the capital D's. And these are things that we know from our own experiences. And we know that you too will also experience these absolutely 100% somewhere along your path of being a entrepreneur, probably many times. So we felt that this was actually a really relevant topic to talk about today. So, disappointments. Oof. You know what it makes me think of, Anna? I don't know, it's just come to my head now. Did you ever see Fish Called Wanda all those years ago?
I
Do you remember
do
that with John
remember it
Cleese?
for a very long time, many a decade, probably not.
Okay, so there was a character. Oh, I can't remember the actor's name because, brain. But there was a character that used to go around and lift his armpit and then sniff it and go, disappointment, like that. It's funnier than maybe you had to be there. But I'm just having that at the moment. It's really random, but I've got that kind of going on in my head. Makes me think maybe that's a good way of actually dealing with disappointment. But yeah, so I'm curious as to I mean, they're massive topics, but I just want to hand this
Yeah.
over to you to start us
Oh,
off.
thanks.
Yeah, all right.
I, yeah, thanks for that. Let's just start that off and then just hand the baton over. Okay. So we've got lots of different things that we want to talk about, and I think this is something that, as you mentioned, many entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur is going to come up against. And I think a few things can happen when we're thinking about these things. One of them is that we can end up playing small because we're like, I can't deal with the disappointment. I think devastation was actually a word I used. I'm going to happily share. I used myself with you in a coaching session when you were coaching me, and I was talking about like what will I feel if this thing that I was doing didn't come off. That was the first. It kind of was almost like came out,
Mm.
like a kind of word vomit thing. It was like
Yeah.
devastated,
Yeah.
and because it felt like, I think the thing is we identify so much with our businesses. They're so important to us. And if something that we're working towards doesn't work out, it can
Mm.
feel that disappointment, but it can go further than disappointment and it can
Mm.
be devastating. It can feel in that moment quite devastating. And annoyingly, the thing I was worried about did happen, and I did feel devastated. But I
Yeah.
felt devastated for a short period of time. I kind of allowed myself to feel that. And I think sometimes we can judge ourselves and be like, just pull yourself together. Don't do, you be all of that kind of stuff. But
Mm.
actually, sometimes we just need that little moment to just collapse in a heap. Not forever, but for a little moment. Because when something is important to us and it
Yeah.
doesn't work out in the way that we want, that is what we're going to feel. And
Yeah.
it's those, we don't really want to just be numb to everything and just feel nothing, because then the highs don't mean anything and those wins don't mean anything either. So it's a
Yeah.
difficult place to be, and I think what can happen is that we can end up being so scared of moving forwards with our goals because we worry about that possible moment that might come of the disappointment and
Yeah.
devastation. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
so much. And there's so much in what you just said. But the big thing I want to say is you're sharing all of that, Anna. I feel really moved. And I think this is really important actually, in that this is about this is about us being vulnerable. As soon as we have the idea that we want to share in the world, we want to manifest, we want to make happen, we want it to work, we want it to be successful, we want it to thrive, all of these things, that already is a place of vulnerability. To then actually go, I'm going to put the action steps, I'm going to devote my resources, my time, my money, my focus, my attention into doing that. is another step of vulnerability. I'm just kind of really feeling this and also thinking about this just in this moment in response to you sharing, because I could really feel that. And this is what makes us human. It connects us. And in a world that is, as we've said many times before, and especially if we have a business, we know about the social media world because this is where we advertise our wares, where we're like, got our stall, kind of trying to be seen or heard or find our people and for our people to find us. In an increasingly online marketplace world, being human is I think that's actually one of the most strongest things we can be. And it's not about like airing everything and like, you know, you to use the word kind of like vomiting, emotional vomiting all over the place. I think there is a line, but the willingness to be able to feel the disappointment, the devastations, the willingness maybe to share in some way that feels useful, sharing from the scar, not the wound, as I always say, when I work with
Mm.
writers. What did I learn from this? What did feeling this give to me? Um, Sometimes those behind
Is
the scenes.
Sorry, I love that idea of the sharing from the scar, not the wound.
Yeah.
Is that the idea that once it's healed enough, that's when you feel like you can share? Is that right?
It it's the place of there's a difference. When we share from the wound, something has still got a lot of charge in it, whether that's emotional charge, um, usually kind of a lot of emotional charge to it. So we haven't worked it through yet. And often when we do that, it's a little bit like if you've got a journaling practice, if any of you kind of do journaling, when you kind of do that kind of splurge out on a page and it's all a bit messy and it's almost like having the tantrum or it's having that like, oh, kind of like, oh, my boy doesn't like me anymore and all this kind of stuff. We kind of put all that out and it clears it all out. You have a good cry, you blow your nose, you kind of do what you need to do. Then fix your crown, as they say, slap on some lippy, and then off you go out into the world again. So it is that bit where it's not, it's for me, there's a self consciousness place when we're in that. And I think you can feel that in others, and it can be quite repellent. Like we don't want to go, oh, it's too much. We don't want to go there. It's not helpful, actually. There's no
Mm.
clarity.
Mhm.
When we've moved through what we need to be with, and that is, as you say, the willingness, the bravery, the courage to sit with the feelings of disappointment, to sit with the waves of devastation, whatever it is that's going through, and letting yourself feel all of that from the other side, if we have let ourselves feel this, and this is really important, we're not trying to bypass our humanness and our feelings when these things happen. Usually, pretty much usually, we come out the other side with some wisdom that has like integrated and become something that we go, a realization, an understanding of something that worked, didn't work, seeing something about how we approach stuff that maybe we hadn't seen before. That becomes vital to us of where we go next. And it may be relevant then to go, okay, I've got a piece of something that could be useful for you in whatever, the niche, the field that we're working in, that you can say to your audience from this experience. Then it becomes really what I call embodied wisdom. And you can feel that from somebody that they're walking their talk. It's that place of integrity that I know both of us are really, really grounded in walking from a place of integrity. Thank you for asking that. So, yeah, it's a good thing to kind of notice on a kind of broader sense. Am I sharing from the wound around something or am I sharing from the scar?
Mm.
So,
I
yeah.
do. I love that idea. And I think the fact that I can say that this was what we were talking about and this is what's came up in coaching
Yeah.
is because I have moved through that. In that
Yeah.
moment where I was like, oh, I didn't work out, and all the things I worried about, it ended up coming to pass, and all of that kind of was in that moment. That was the wound. But
Yeah.
now I've moved past that, and I realized that what for me would have been the worst thing, and maybe I'm still I'll own to that. There's a moment of like, do I step into this fully? Because if I don't step into this fully and it doesn't work,
Yeah.
then I could be like, oh no, it's fine. I didn't really put my all into it and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Self
do want to
protection.
just, it's that self protection, and I think I did in this moment end up with that. And I was worried about the devastation, and the devastation happened. And it was there in that moment. Unfortunately, didn't last for very long.
Yeah.
And I think that was, in some ways, it's when we've gone through those things and we're like, actually, that wasn't as bad as the fear of it was. Do you know what I mean? The
Do
experience
you
of it sometimes
Yeah.
is
Do you
not
know
as
what?
big as the brain is telling us it's going to be.
This is so key. It's like exactly like that. Like the fear of something. How many times have every single one of us been so afraid of something and then it never happened?
Hmm.
Or it just didn't happen that way. And most importantly, we survived.
Yeah.
Maybe thrived, maybe even bloody enjoyed ourselves. It's the same thing. I think the fear of, thank you for naming this, the fear of the disappointment, the fear of being devastated by something not happening can be the thing that we go, oh, no, no. Because again, just like fear, and what I've realized more and more over the last year or so, really, and you hear it bloody everywhere, it's not going to go away. We can't protect ourselves from fear if we're living life. We can't protect ourselves from disappointment and all these um, other feelings when we're being brave enough to put ourselves out there. So what we're going to do?
Yeah.
We're either going to what? Sit back and go, no, no, no. One day no, 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 no. That's never going to happen. Or we're going to go, right. Okay, I'm just going to do it anyway. And actually, turning this on its head and being quite subversive about this, which I like to play with myself and with clients, to actually ask ourselves, especially if we're doing something or in the middle of something that does feel very loaded, it's got a lot of expectations on it, there is the possibility it's going to go tits up or whatever. Almost to then go ask ourselves, how can I be disappointed? How can I allow myself to be disappointed today? How can I allow myself to be devastated today? And in a weird way, it's like you're running straight into it and towards it rather than trying to tiptoe around, clinging to the sides of the walls, like you say, making yourself smaller to avoid its gaze. Instead, it's like, right, bring it. I am going to step into the fire of disappointment. Come on, game on. And there's something about us taking the power back, being willing to go, yeah, I'm quite up for being disappointed. Is it going to be pleasant? Probably hell not. Is it going to hurt? Very likely, yes. But I'm going to say yes to it because I know I will be forged. I like that word, forged in that place. Something will strengthen in me that I will continue then to take the risks that I need to do. Oh, I'm feeling very empowered just saying that myself right now.
I love all of that, and I feel like that's what kind of happened. And I do want to just hark back a little bit. If this is something that you notice in yourself, where you pull back slightly, you don't quite go all in, do
Yeah.
listen back to our self sabotage episode, because we talk a lot about
Oh.
all of that side of things where sometimes we do pull back, or we don't go all in or whatever. And that's, yeah, that's definitely an episode that really fits in very well with this one, so do go back and listen to that. But I think what can happen sometimes is we can have goals and we can have things that we want to achieve, and we can be working towards certain things. um, and there are certain things that we can control in terms of what we do, how we put things out there in the world, what happens with
Mm.
that. But there are also certain things that we actually can't control. And I
Yes.
think there's sometimes, if we're a bit of controlling kind of people, we want to control it. We want to say, oh no, I'm going to sell out. Oh, this thing, everyone's going to love it and they're all going to barrel in and it's going to be oversubscribed. All of those things. Maybe that's just me, but that's, I think, what we all want for business, isn't it? That's where we are. But we can put everything out there and do all of the things right and do what we know and do everything that we can do, and it still doesn't necessarily give that result because that desired outcome isn't necessarily within our control. And I
Mm.
think sometimes what we have to do is just accept that. We need to go in with, these are the things that I am doing. This is what I
Mm.
want to achieve. You can still have those goals. You can have those. It's
Mm.
good to have a number in mind. Like, for example, if you were going to say to yourself, oh, I really want to grow my social media following. Well, if at the end of the year you've got one more follower than you started with, you've grown your social media following. Is that what you meant? Probably not. So we
Mm.
do need to know a little bit more about what is it that we mean by that. But there are certain things we can control around what we do, and there are certain things we can't control. And we have to kind of make our peace with that almost a little bit. We just need to give that over a bit.
I love that, especially as they form a control freak, a recovering control freak, I should say. It's such a good thing. I mean, I almost want to write that actually on a, maybe I will. I have little bits of paper with quotes and things on my desk. I feel like that's something to remember. Because it's also the thing, isn't it, of like, whatever you believe, we're co-creating with life all the time. So there's got to be space for life to do its magic as well. There's got to, yeah. And then maybe in that space, we can go for a nice walk. We can go for lunch with a friend. We can go and browse books in Waterstones. That's obviously just a very personal preference, but you might also find that one quite appealing. We can go for a spa afternoon, go for a swim. Like, actually, we can take that time off in a way to go, okay, something else can be working whilst I'm doing that. That might be another episode of something to be done with. But you mentioned something before we started recording around this, around having these kind of goals and then maybe it's not quite happened. And then that can take us into that place of, being
Around
disappointed or being
timelines.
devastated. Yeah, timelines. Yeah. Can you share a bit more about what you were telling me? Because I thought that was great.
Yeah, I think what can be interesting is so many people say, "Oh, like set a target, set a goal," and I found there's a couple of things going on here, but one of them that really got to me, and I wonder if you're similar to me. I'm not sure on this one, but some people are very motivated by the stats, by the numbers, by the, that they're really motivated by those things. I personally am not massively motivated by that. I'm motivated by the idea. If an idea sparks me, I'm like, I'm there. I'm in, I'm done. That's what's going to motivate me. So I think understanding ourselves and what
Mm,
motivates ourselves is really
mm.
important. But
Yeah,
also I feel like when it comes to something like a timelines, is sometimes we can be really caught up on the idea that something has to happen within a certain date. We
mm,
start, like for us, we often will have programs running and we'll have a certain like start date for the program, so we want a certain number of people ideally to join the program by that particular date.
mm.
And so those dates come and go, and maybe we have those people, maybe we don't. But I think sometimes when those timelines that we have set ourselves don't happen, we can start thinking, oh, it's never going to happen. And I think that's also an incorrect way of looking at it. It's like, okay, well, that didn't work on this occasion. It didn't work this time. What about this didn't work? Why? What could I do differently next time? It's not about going, that didn't happen. And so
Yeah.
therefore, I shouldn't bother trying again.
Yeah, we make it very black
It's
and
different.
white, don't
Sometimes we
we?
need to stretch that timeline. Yeah. I think sometimes we need to say it didn't happen yet. If we can use the word yet after things, we can keep going and we can keep moving. And I think sometimes I wonder if that's actually just the hardest thing, especially when you're starting a business. It can feel so difficult to feel like you're trying to get that traction, and you
Yeah.
know you want to get that momentum, and it takes time and effort, and almost like we're
Mm.
shouting into the void for a
You know what
while.
it's making me think of as well? It's just making me think about, the kind of the myth of the overnight success, and that's it's such a big thing that because it's so true. The years of, there's a few people that I was first of all I was thinking of Chappelle, what's her name? Chappelle Royan. Wasn't
Yeah.
she years and years kind of doing the circuit and then suddenly right place, right time. She's out there, superstar kind of level. And I was thinking about a few people that I followed over the years on Instagram that I followed years ago because I just liked what they were doing. One was an illustrator, another was somebody who's a real, what's the word, champion of art, being creative. And I followed them because I just really like what they're doing. And they had a small following. And then again, who knows why? The wind's just blowing in a certain direction or whatever. Both of them have gone into like stratospheric kind of um I don't want to use the word fame, popularity, I suppose. Like suddenly they're seen, they're known, they're visible, they're being successful and thriving in the ways of, how we can see who knows personally in their own lives and all this kind of stuff. We're talking kind of in the professional kind of fields here. And it is this thing of like, as what I can see from these people I'm thinking of, they were always consistent. Yeah, sure. And the one that champions artists has always been really vulnerable, going back to the vulnerability about the hard times, about why hasn't this happened yet? Here's another rejection around here. But they stayed consistent. I think this is part of that not happened yet. I love the yet thing. And I call this considered consistency. Can we keep on with the considered consistency? And even when we get the disappointments and the devastations come through, yes, it might mean we step back. We will need to tend to ourselves. We need to give ourselves what we need in order to, be kind and loving and all of that. But within that, not to give up. Don't give up is part of our D's here. So how do we then keep that considered consistency? Maybe we're not being so visible for a few days or a few weeks because we're just tending to, but maybe there's little things we can put out. Maybe we're still holding the vision of what we're doing, and maybe we're writing a little bit in notes in our phone, or we're just thinking about it and daydreaming. So we keep the relationship and the connection going, even if it looks like we've gone quiet. Because I don't know, it's making me think about relationships, being disappointed in relationships of everybody's going to disappoint each other. That's one thing as well. That's I find really interesting. You get in relationship, and for me, our business is a relationship. We get in relationship with another or others. Let's just go with one for now. Let's stay, keep it simple. Um, if we come to that knowing we're going to disappoint each other, knowing that we're going to be disappointed by the other person, knowing that we're going to hurt each other and be hurt, that devastation place in a way, wouldn't that make it a lot more kind of like, this is going to happen at some point? It's less about that happening and more about how do we stay in the relationship? What needs to happen then to tend to repair, to bring ourselves back, you know, into that kind of closeness. And maybe we can take that as almost a map or analogy to bring into how we are with our business as well, that we're going to expect that this is going to be expecting disappointment. It goes back to that again, rather than trying to avoid it. And there was something else I was wanted to say around this of, the kind of staying small, because this is the irony is that by trying to stay small in order to avoid and self protect, as you kind of touched upon, we still will be disappointed because we're holding a lot of that desire underneath. There's still going to be little things. So, isn't it more worthwhile to just go, fuck it? I don't want to be small with what I desire. And one of the things that I'm bringing into this year, and I've spoken to Anna about this, and I'm playing with this, is can I really own what I really, really want? What the vision is, what the dream is. Not the be modest, not that, oh, who does she think she is? These are my stories that can go on in my head. Oh, she's showing off. Oh, she's being too much. All of these kind of things. Can I let myself really own that? And then ask for that, whether that's as a collaboration, whether that's in a business negotiation, in a boardroom, funding, whatever it might be. Can I practice doing that? And then alongside that, am I willing then to let go of the attachments to what happens? Like almost like that's not the important bit. The important bit is that I don't squish myself and my desires to my business down. I stay 100% its cheerleader in full belief. Yeah, I don't know. How does that sound?
I absolutely love that. I absolutely love
Mm.
that. And this year for me, I've been working on my Good Girl's Guide to Resistance, and I find that the thing that I'm resisting most is in my head. It's because it's like I have this thing and this thought. I'm like, oh, I really want to do this, and then all of a sudden there's a resistance to doing that, and it can be big things and small things. It
Yeah.
can be, oh, I can't be bothered to go to the post office. There's going to be a queue. It can be tiny things,
Yeah.
but it can also be bigger things around my business. Do I want to step into this? Do I want to go all in? Or am I pulling back slightly? And so what I'm trying to do is just firstly just notice the resistance. What am I resisting? What am I stopping myself from doing straight away that I'll probably do eventually, but maybe it's, something's going on. And
Mm.
can I just do it? Can I just go and do that thing that I'm resisting?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes if I think we're both ideas people. So when an idea like
Mm.
that catches me, I'm like, right, I'm going in on this, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to keep going with this, because it's captured my imagination, and it's a
Yeah.
way of doing it that's in that more kind of playful, what will happen? I wonder what will happen if I do this. I wonder what will happen if I do that. And then it doesn't become everything. I think sometimes in
Mm.
business, everything feels like it's like a life or death decision. It's kind of like, if I do this, then I haven't done that. And and I think we need to take ourselves seriously, but also not. Again, I know
Yeah.
we've talked about this before, um, but we need to just move. I think that's the other thing. And sometimes I can feel that freeze come in. That fight or freeze is the big one for
Yeah.
me. Of like staying still, don't move, don't let anyone see anything, and
Yeah.
can get stuck in that for months and
Yeah.
not be moving forward. Even if I'm moving in the wrong direction, at least I'll be moving and making something, and saying, okay, was that the right direction? No, it wasn't. Okay, let's go in a
Yeah.
different direction now. We don't know. I think we try. We only know with hindsight. And I think we try in advance to second guess something. I think if we have the energy towards something, and if that feels like the way we need to move our business, that's what I'm trying to do with my resistance series.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love all that. And it's so, I mean, we're both very playful, aren't we? And I know for me, when I've gone a bit out of alignment or a lot of fears come in, it's because I've got so serious about everything. It's like, oh, hold
Yes.
on a second. It's such a good thing for me to notice, because my natural place is the playful place and
Yeah.
following the energy.
Yes, yes, yes.
So this is like a good pointer to go, oh, okay, hold on. Really interesting, because this makes me think about like the whole thing around risk, the risk of disappointment, the risk of going for things. And I think it is important to have a kind of sense of risk assessment, you know, um, to actually really just check in when there is that big risk that could lead to disappointment. Like you say, it could make us go, we'll have a response, a reaction, a nervous system prediction, basically, brain prediction,
Yeah.
reaction. And then to kind of notice, okay, how much is true that's going on that's making me like, be like, whoa, stop, halt, do not go any further. What's in there? What needs to be, is it again? Do I need extra support? Do I need to make sure that I'm, around this time that I'm doing something, I go out for more walks, that I'm eating well, that I'm sleeping well, what basic things. We've mentioned, I think, before about the weeps, like those basic things
In
to
the
help to
energy.
support us. Yeah, exactly. Um, and then also noticing where where exactly what you're saying, that move place of going, okay, yeah, all of this, yes, this is scary, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but making those risk assessments, will I be okay, will I lose everything, will I end up on the streets, things like can come into my head, will I be able to pay this bill, what will happen with this, will people not like me if I do that, will I lose clients, all of the things, to sit with those if we've got these big decisions that could lead to those devastations, and really check in with those. And then if it seems like, do you know what, there'll be things, I'll be supported. I'm not going to end up, like we're going to be okay. To then go, okay, yeah, let's go for it. Because, and this is a big thing for me, is my vision of what I want for my business, of where I want to go, does that matter at the end of the day more to me than the risk of looking like a fool, the risk of losing everything, the risk of going, oh man, I did a whole fanfare, song and dance, and it just fell flat in its face. Does my vision for my dream matter more than all of these other places that could happen and end up in disappointment, devastation? And if the answer is yes, just like you say, make the move, take the step, and enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. I think this is the
Yeah,
big thing we forget, is the
definitely.
whole thing is that I hate it. It's such a cliche, but it's true. The whole thing is around the journey and the process and what we learn and who we meet along the way, like this gorgeous human being here that we get to collaborate with, and who knew that was going to happen, rather than, because I tell you something, we'll get to the destination, guarantee by the time we get to that destination, we'll have already got our eyes on another one. It won't be like, that's it, I'm done, I can sit
Mhm.
down now for the rest of my life. Always.
Mm. I'm just thinking about, and I can think of a few people that this has happened to, and I think it might be a fairly common kind of pattern. And that is those people who, are spending time, they're growing, they're doing things, they're going out and doing whatever it is they want to do. And there's one big setback, and they think to themselves, right, is this it? Shall I just give this up? Shall I go back to the day job? I can think of an actor that I know who had this, who'd been working, doing lots of
Mm.
stuff and been doing, getting into things in television and doing theatre, and just like had a knockback and was like, right, should I
Who?
just forget this? Should I just give this up? And didn't, and went on, and and then became quite a big star. And I can think about this about a couple of jewelers that I thought that I know as well, who had kind of done some
Mm.
collections. Nothing really had happened. They were, they were being doing the things we were talking about, being consistent, getting out there. Something really fell flat, and they're like, "Oh, should I just? And what am I doing? Should I just stop this?"
Mm.
And they went on and continued, and that next thing was the big thing. And I think we always need to be thinking like, okay, all right, in this situation right now, I'm feeling disappointment, maybe I'm feeling doubt, maybe I'm felt devastated,
Mm.
but what if it's the next thing? What if it's this one more push, one more thing?
Yeah.
Because as you mentioned, the myth of the overnight success and this idea of that, I think sometimes can make people feel like, well, if it hasn't happened for me yet, then it's not going to.
Yeah.
And I think that's not true.
Yeah. I it's such a good reminder, isn't it? And like you say, what comes in then is all the doubt, isn't it? My God, how many times I've, probably yourself as well, I've had that. Like, this hasn't worked. No one signed up to this. It just didn't get the response I thought it was going to happen. And then the doubt, oh, I shouldn't be doing, I'm no good, the comparison, all of our mind, tricky little fucker. It just will go, it gets in, it hooks us in. The mind wants us to be safe,
Yeah.
essentially.
Yeah.
And for that, the mind is like, no, 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 sit in the, don't look at anybody. Don't do anything. Stay in the corner. Be quiet. The mind's going, you'll be safe there. We've got you. We're doing a really good job, aren't we? And in the meantime, our soul is crying. Please.
Yeah.
This is awful. And life is calling to us. It's, yeah, doubt's interesting though, because I think we can have healthy doubt. I think healthy doubt is really
Definitely.
useful to kind of
Yeah.
go, okay,
And
well, who cares?
I want to put in a question that
Yeah,
I
go for it.
love this question, and that is, how do we tell the difference between fear and intuition?
Oh,
Gonna mic drop that one there, because I think that's what often happens is like I'll be overthinking, because there we go, and that's what the mind does. But I'll be thinking about certain things, and I'm like, look, is is my not moving forwards in this situation,
yeah.
is that because of fear, and actually I just need to push through that, and I need to just go, no, I'm doing this anyway, and it doesn't matter what the response or the result of
Mm,
this is the direction? Or is it intuition that's going, no, this is the wrong thing for you?
mm,
I think I have an answer to this, and I don't know if you do have an answer to this, because I know you've been doing a lot of kind of body work stuff, and
mm.
and I think intuition often can come as a feeling from ourselves rather than a
Uh,
chat from our minds.
yeah.
I think fear often sounds like judgment.
Interesting.
I think it sounds
Mm,
like, who do you think you are? What do you think you're doing? I think it sounds like judgment. Whereas I think intuition, there's a different feeling to it. And I've heard, well, I know I've talked about this before, but around it being more of a kind of almost like a bodily response of like
yeah.
less language based thing, but more of a kind of a feeling. Like we talk about the gut feeling, don't we? You
Yeah.
know. So anyway, I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
I
No, I
it's
love that.
advanced.
No, isn't this great? I mean, it's making me think, oh, I want to take that into the rest of my week and just see if I can remember to feel into or inquire into when I get one of those, kind of things arise. But from my sense of exactly what you said, I think intuition is quieter, actually. It's not a song and dance. It is
Yeah.
quieter. It is more in the body. But it's very difficult. And also, we forget, I forget often, that fear and excitement are actually very, very similar. And sometimes it's just simply a matter of changing the labeling. So, yes, it could be a risky thing we're about to do. And we're feeling a lot of what we've called fear, but it could just be excitement. Excitement is literally energy that wants to go somewhere and move. And for me, as I've been working more on changing the language around that over the last year or so, when I catch myself, and obviously, bigger risk assessment, am I really not in danger? Okay, no. Actually, when I change that to excitement, and no, I just feel like this giddy kid that's like, "Ah, can we go now? Can we go now? Can we go now? Can we do it now? Can we do that?" Like really annoying to the
Yeah.
parent for like 4 days before they off to go to like Disneyland or something with a really random in my brain there. Um,
Yeah.
then something else comes on board and everything gets on board with that. So often, well, it's always, isn't it? Like that, what's the mind telling us? And do we have to believe those stories? And can we just play with the language of that instead and see what happens? And I think our intuition never lets us down. And how often do we do something when our intuition has told us the opposite, not to do it, or we haven't done something and our intuition has told us to do it. And then afterwards we went, I knew it.
Yeah.
Like we know.
And I do, I love that. I think you're right. I think it is then it becomes about thinking about those things for yourself and noticing the patterns and the things that happen when you go for it, and when it's fear and when it's intuition. Like, I think
Yeah.
the older you get, the more you can spot those patterns in yourself. And I would say those people who are listening to this are probably in that space where you are
Mm.
interested, and you are doing that self inquiry. And I think it's so valuable to do that. But as I've said before, don't believe everything you think. And a lot of times, our fear is kind of like you said, it's doing the song and dance, and it's getting in the way. Where you know what it is you actually need to do,
Yeah.
and it's
And
and it's
and
just trying to hold you back.
the irony is the only way we get to that place, and I think that does connect with being older, where we trust intuition more, is by not listening to it, is by getting
Yeah.
fearful and saying no to things or trying stuff and it not working. It's the only way. We can't bypass. You can't read a million books or do 1,000 workshops or work with a coach to bypass that. It's um it's just impossible. It's not going to happen. And I think what starts to happen then with all of that is we get stronger and stronger. It plugs back in to go, to that what we're doing matters. And so we're willing to go through all these places because we know it's part of it, because we believe in it's the belief. There's something about the trusting and believing in what our vision is, and that being worth it at the end of the day. And if it's not, to go, okay, something needs to be tweaked here. Either what I'm doing, maybe it's run its course and it's got a different shape to it now, or it needs tweaking, or actually, maybe this isn't really what I want to be putting out into the world. And I need to really sit down and again, maybe work with a coach or, have some really kind of honest questions with yourself and go, what is it that I really want to be saying here or doing that maybe I'm not quite letting myself really want? And therefore, it's wobbling me more than, than maybe it ought to,
Mm.
kind of really.
And I
Yeah.
think as well, a lot of things make sense in hindsight. A lot of times when we look
Mm.
backwards on our journey and where we've come from and the things that we've experienced, we kind of look back and go, oh, okay, now all of this makes sense, and this is where I'm at, and I needed to go down that detour, and I needed to go in that direction, because maybe by doing that I avoided something worse. I think
Mm.
we often go into that Susan Jeffers feel the fear choice point thing of like, well, this decision is the right decision, and everything would have been amazing if I just made that decision, and that one is the wrong one, and it's going into the forbidden forest, and it's all that stuff. But actually, either decision is always going to have good and bad things about it, and we forget that because we're like,
Mm.
oh, I made this decision and some bad things happened, and if I'd just done this, everything would be beautiful, and
Mm.
I'd be skipping all along with my I don't know, I'm saying why I'm
I
Red
love the
Riding Hood.
skipping in the Forbidden Forest. I didn't know that.
Red Riding Hood.
I see, I see. With your
That's where my brain has
with
gone
your
with it. But
scones. I'm seeing scones, like freshly cut, really big, nice warm,
Mm,
moist scones in your basket. I don't know why.
mm. I like that. Let's do that. Love it.
moving on to moving on to scones. There was something I was just bound to say about that as well. Of oh, it's gone. There you go. That's fine. It's gone from my brain. Um,
It will come back.
it will come back,
Yeah.
or it won't come back, and that's absolutely fine as well. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm really like I found this really interesting as well. Of and because I've been working with you for a few years now, and this is something I will share. Oh my God, how since day one, probably I've been saying to Anna at various times throughout my coaching sessions with her around this. This doesn't work anymore. And it's around social media and the way that I've been using social media. Like it doesn't work. The way that clients come, the way it does work is through writing or through, doing this. I say over and over again, don't I? How many times over and over again? Because so many times I'll feel that disappointment, put stuff out on social media, like, yeah, this is great. And then tumbleweed. And then I come back to Anna going, oh, God, that's really frustrating, disappointing. But I know that's not the way. And I think that's part of it as well. Like, I think we will keep repeating these patterns where we do get the disappointment because it's not the right thing for us energetically. It's not aligned with us. It doesn't resonate with us and all of that other slightly hippie esque language, though we're totally not hippies. That this isn't the thing for us. And we're trying to, like, hit the square peg in the round hole or whatever it is to make it fit. Whereas everything is telling us this isn't yours. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really interesting place. I think for my own journey of bringing that part of the disappointment in is trying to do that over and over again, knowing, no, 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 this isn't right to turn away, but not doing that yet. Well, it's beginning to happen a lot more now for me. There's a lot more trust in a different way now. Um, but it's funny to see those kind of patterns show up, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think that's where this whole idea for me about fear and intuition comes in because if it's not working, don't do it harder. Do you know what I mean? But then how do we know? Like, should I just keep going? I
Yeah.
think that's where
Different
sometimes the
strategy,
difference.
maybe, and all this. Yeah.
And I think that's where the fear versus the intuition kind of comes in as well, because we can be following this guru and we do exactly what they said we should do to build our business. And they
Mm,
just share what works for them. But actually, maybe it doesn't work for you, or it doesn't work for the people that you want to work with, or
yeah.
the products that you sell. And we get frustrated. We're like, but I did everything that this person
Yeah.
said to do. And I think sometimes it's always, well, always it's about the picking and choosing the things that feel aligned to what you're doing, giving
Yeah.
it a try, seeing what happens, kind of course correcting, going doing it but maybe in a slightly different way.
Yeah. But alongside that as well, the really recognizing when we do come up against this quite a lot, the disappointment, maybe it is about I need more skills. Maybe actually I am missing a very fundamental part and I do need to go and find training in this area or that or do some courses and that, just on a very practical level. It's really important. It's the energy plus strategy. Both is needed in what we're doing. So it is looking at both of those aspects, I think, equally importantly, especially because we're talking about business here. Of that could be the bit that why you keep getting disappointed is that actually it is about the strategy. Even if the strategy is no strategy and that work, there'll still be a structure in that you'll be working with. It's not like absolutely fuck all and you're just on a wing and a prayer. No, even those people that you see out there that are, there's a whole big thing about like soft girl energy and stuff at the moment out there. And I'm just being in my feminine, lying around in my lingerie and hundreds of thousands of pounds are pouring into my account. Maybe they are. I'm sure, especially some people that I follow that I really like their stuff. But guaranteed that underneath this lounging around in your underwear in the afternoon, you've got a strategy in place. It might not be the hard ass strategy, it's the strategy. So I keep saying the word strategy right now. Saying it quite a lot in this last minute. But that is equally important as all these aspects as well. So before you kind of throw everything out, just check in. Am I weak in an area? Actually, it would really do me good and my business good to get more, being more of an authority in that and see where I can turn to towards training. I think that's really important. Or, and I'm going to just kind of highlight one of my uh, parts of my work here, or you need community and support. And I created the 8% Club, which is my creative community membership last April. So we're in, I was about to say December now, but we're really not. We're in January. But last April, as yeah, exactly that, a creative community. It's called the 8% Club because apparently only 8%, when I read this statistic a couple of years ago, only 8% of new business owners stay with their business beyond the first few months and years. The other 92% give up, which when I read that, I was just blown away. And it's understandable. So this is about, for me, the 8% Club is you are serious about your creative work, writing your book, getting your puppet show out there. These are true things that are happening, getting your offerings, your shamanic work out there. And within that, having a community that holds you accountable, celebrating, but also there when you're really feeling the doubts, you're feeling the disappointment, all the stuff that we're talking about here, just to hear, just to listen, that's it. And it's really powerful having community. And I think that's a really important part of holding the devastation, the disappointments, and the doubt. Do you have network around you? Do you have fellow people that you trust enough to be able to go, like I can with Anna and Anna with myself, and we probably, I'm sure we do have other people where we can go, this doesn't work at the moment. And then, and being heard by somebody who's in that arena with you, and understands what that is. I think that's so important.
I think so. And I also do want to know, again, we're coaches and I'll put this out there, but one of the biggest things for me to move me forwards is to have a coaching session and
Yeah.
to talk it through and to say, this is what's happening, and to have somebody help as a sounding board to reflect it back, to really help. Those sessions with you and with other coaches that I've got as
Yeah.
well will push me forwards more than it will me. I mean, I still advocate sitting and doing my journaling, or all of that will be
Yeah.
helpful. But there's something magic about bringing these things and talking about them, even just for an hour. You could be in a completely new mindset in that hour, by the end of that hour, and I think, and
Mm,
have new energy and new plans and a new
mm.
way forward. So we, of course we're going to advocate for that because that's something that we both do, but I
Oh, because it
think
works.
it does work.
Yeah.
It works. It's
And you've got
amazing.
somebody on your side to remind you. I think this is the thing. The times when I've been like, no, it's the being reminded of the vision. It's being reminded of what we bring. And don't we all need that? It's a form of love. We all need that. Even as hard ass businesswomen, if that's who we want to be, we all need that. Um, I just want to put this out there to you who are listening. This is such a rich episode. It's always such rich episodes that Anna and I put out here for you because we care. Um, we really love to know, like, what are your thoughts around everything we shared? And I want to just offer a couple of coaching questions here, actually, for you to just to take in, let land in. Let us know. We always love, love, love. We've loved in season one hearing your feedback, hearing your responses, hearing about the episodes that meant something to you, what you got out of it, questions that came up for you. So please keep doing that. We absolutely adore it. So a couple of coaching reflections for you. One is to really think about, how do you handle disappointment in your life? Do you try and avoid it like the plague? If so, how is that working out for you for the things you want to be doing? So it might be the first step for you is to sit down and go, okay, I need a new relationship with disappointment. If I can't avoid it, what's this going to be? Maybe it's having a chat in
Mhm.
your journal with disappointment. That could be a thing. One of the things, and you touched upon this earlier, actually, Anna, of think back to a time when you were disappointed in something you were trying to do, could be to do with your business or some other area of your life. And then think about what good came from that, from maybe not
Mhm.
getting what you wanted. That is a very
Yeah.
interesting exercise to do. And the last tip, or the last inquiry coaching question I want to put in here, is to really sit down and go, is my vision for my business or how I want it to go, where I see it going, does that matter more to me than experiencing the uncomfortableness, the painfulness, the of meeting disappointment or devastation um, over and over and over again, and check. And the answer should be yes, even if, and we'll just kind of take a little of the Elizabeth Gilbert one here, even if the answer is only 1% more, that is enough. That's all you need. And if it's not, you might
Mhm.
need to reassess what you're doing and what's going on for you.
Okay. I love those. And I want to add a couple of questions as well to
Yeah.
that. When you were coaching me around this, you said, and I loved this, so I wrote it down, is are you willing to be devastated?
Mhm.
And I think that kind of fits in with what you were just saying, but I quite like that as a real question. So if this doesn't work and you feel disappointed and devastated by that, are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put in that? And I think what was interesting for me was I allowed myself to be like, yes.
Can I just say, I put my hand up, didn't I? Because at school, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's just made me think again of Elizabeth Gilbert's. What shit sandwich are you willing to eat? She says that in Big Magic for the risks that you're willing to take. What
That's
shit sandwich? So it feels a similar thing.
Yeah, I love that book. And also, when things happen, when you have setbacks, one of my best questions to really move me out of it, and again, it's very similar to what we were just talking about and the things you were just saying. But one of my best questions is, what is great about this situation? What is great about
Mm.
this? I had this happen where how much of this am I willing to share? So
Oh, the risk.
yeah, I was in a situation, and there was a contractual situation that there were some issues. There were some issues going on around it, and it was difficult. It was a difficult kind of situation to deal with because you're like, oh, I don't, the good girl in me is like, I don't want to burn bridges. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Um, but then I kind of then something oh no, this is not working out very well, this story, because I don't really want
That's
to share too
okay.
much. But then this person did something stupid, and apologized later about it. But then I was able to go, actually, no, I'm fine with just cutting my losses here. I'm fine with just taking pushing out of this situation. So even though I was in a situation where someone was treating me badly, the
Mm,
fact that they were treating me badly meant that I no longer felt bad about moving myself away from that situation. So for me, that was what was good about the situation, was like, well, the fact that this has happened has meant that I don't feel any guilt whatsoever about extricating myself from this contract
mm,
and this situation. And I think the last thing we need to think about is, again, it's a very similar thing, is but what am I ready to let go of? Because I think sometimes it's very much an
mm,
ego thing. It's like, this didn't happen when I wanted it to happen. There's a little child in us kind of stomping their feet.
mm.
And sometimes am I willing to let go of that? Am I willing to move my timeline and say, this hasn't happened yet? And all of that is so important.
I love that because again, it makes me think about the letting go of control and that there is a humility needed in all of this, isn't there, and what we're doing. And that's really, really important. It could be also just to kind of add on to that, it could be letting go of the need to look cool or like to have it to be the one that's got it all together, that gets it all right all the time or doesn't make a mess. I mean, it can be, again, cliche, but how we are in our business, it is a practice of our own growth as a person. So we will learn so much about ourselves in that as well. Oh,
Fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so much, Heidi. Thank you, everyone, for
yeah.
listening. And we look forward to joining you again on episode of the Full of Ourselves podcast very soon.